Right, are we all set? We'll call this regular council meeting of December 10th to order, our last council meeting of 2024, our regular council. Qualify that. So we respect and recognize the First Nations within whose unceded lands the village of Kaslo is situated, including the Tanaka, the Sinites and the Silks people, and the Indigenous and Métis residents of our community. Have a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Bird, seconded by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And motion to adopt the minutes of the November 26th meeting, if there are no errors or omissions. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. We have no delegations tonight. So we'll move into information items. So we've got provided a report and along with the CBT highlights. Are there any questions on the report? And I will point out, Councillor Brown, there might, no, maybe not, for staff, if we don't know whether we can forward the first item in the, there's one of the items on the trust report, two new initiatives, and one through the Wildfire Resilience Support Program and support for rural internet service providers to implement fire smart measures around their infrastructure. So that would be infrastructure up in the mountains, and then if wildfire is threatening that, then it could threaten communications, critical communications means for during an emergency. So, you know, we can just give them the heads up. It hasn't rolled out yet, but it's coming. And then the support for water mapping resources, again, it's coming. This is just a heads up that that's something that we've talked about, and because it's in the report, I can speak to it. So yeah, something to be watchful for that. It's the same as they did up the lake. They had mapped, and you had spoken about it, and the community forest was interested, so they are putting that into place. So that would be good.
Through the chair, those are my two questions. So is there?
Oh, I didn't know you had questions.
No worries. Is there a specific channel for them to apply for these initiatives? Do we just kind of wait and see this information at this point?
Yes, okay. Just the board voted to proceed with those, to accept those as two of the new initiatives that staff are going to be doing. But I suspect that they will be in place fairly soon into the new year, just to get things moving for the coming fire season. To one of the other moving on that. So I will. My report included reporting on just the virtual part of the FCM meetings, but because I would have missed deadline for getting the in-person portion on the report for this time. So it'll be on the January one, and it'll be more comprehensive. So, but it was a very good, very busy week, which was good. That's what we're there for, is to do our work. So thank you. All right, so then committee meetings. We have got the Art and Heritage Committee meeting minutes, and that resolution will be, council reports, sorry. It's in small print down there. Okay, council reports. Councillor Leafwood, I suspect you have one, otherwise you wouldn't have pointed that out.
I just wanted to report on, this isn't a committee of count, but I did ask Mayor Hewitt if I could report on it through the chair. I attended this conference called the Rural Voices Gathering, which was on rural health. And it was, so it was people throughout the whole province talking basically about 4 topics: transportation, education, like healthcare and career training, I think. The main topic through the whole province was transportation to medical appointments. So different communities have done different things. We were all split up into these peer groups, and I was with people from Kootenai. Sarah Sinclair was the facilitator, and Gary Jackman was there, and some other people. And you know, talking about the challenges we're having with rural transportation. And different communities, like some communities up north, the municipality, 3 of them got together and bought a bus. So that's how people are getting to medical appointments and stuff. And then the other interesting piece was the afternoon was kind of more with, I think, light groups. I ended up being with mostly people from up north. But there were 2 mayors, a councillor, and they talked about doctor recruitment and how, again, there's a shortage of doctors throughout the province. And the city of Mackenzie has a lot of, or is it the city of Mackenzie? Not quite sure. You probably know.
I know Sarah.
Yeah, anyway, they talked about what they do
Yeah.
for recruitment, and their doctors have been, like, they've been there for like 16 years. So that was interesting. Anyway, I mean, again, much of the stuff is not really our purview, but definitely we can advocate for transportation and rural health. So from the conference will be recommendations to the rural minister of, and I think also Brittany Anderson, who is now a junior minister of rural affairs. Is that her title? It's something to do with rural. Yeah, anyway, so it was just of interest to talk to people about the same issues we're having.
Thank you. I think that was very topical.
Yeah, with
Other issues that we have discussed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Councillor Booth. Deputy?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Booth. All right, thank you. Right, so now we've got the minutes are received for the Arts and Heritage Committee meeting, and it will come up under the recommendation will come up under business later on. Yes. Sure. All right, then we'll go to CAO reports.
Campground, just a update since it's a slightly different plan of attack than we were expecting. We were hoping to have a new agreement with the campground operator being presented to you now. But when I reviewed the notes I had from staff's meeting with the campground operator, it looks like there's an increased level of service that they'd like the village to provide at the campground. So that's a longer conversation, and I think it would be better suited to have happen in a committee of the whole. So we're going to let the campground operator know that we'll have a meeting with them in the new year council, and then have that agreement in place well before we start the camping season. South Kaslo development plan. So that was our desire to have a plan in place for how do we develop the lands that the village currently owns. What's the infrastructure that would be needed? What's the funding model through a developer or a village directly? Constructing infrastructure, those kind of things. So a kickoff meeting happened last week, and staff for the CAO report you have kind of outlines what happens in phase 1, 2, 3. So by the end of the fourth quarter, we're expecting to have a plan in place, and I'll let you read the document if you'd like more detail there. Fire inspections are being performed by the regional district, and so you might hear about businesses being visited by our local fire chief and or the RDCK last week and this week. And important to note that that service is within the service that's currently being provided, meaning there's no additional cost to the village. The business license bylaw for the village allows us to recover the costs of fire inspections from our commercial businesses. I don't know that we've done that historically, but if we ever dive into our business license fees, excuse me, and how much we pay to the RDCK, then there's an option there for the village to start recovering more costs from the commercial businesses. The new library, there was a quick meeting between the building committee and staff to chat about the need for an operating budget. And so the building committee is keen to give a budget to the RDCK and council. And in order to do that, they need to know what the lease rate would be that the village would be charging them. And the lease rate is a little tricky to figure out at this point because there's no one around to help them establish what are the costs of snow removal and electrical and all that. So they're looking for someone to help them establish the operating budget. And they're also going to need guidance on what do they do with this asset renewal plan that came with the construction cost estimate, $2 million over 40 years. So they were looking for the village staff to help develop this operating budget. And the challenge staff have is that we're already have work plans and our time is allocated. And so it was suggested that the building committee hire a consultant to help develop their operating budget and determine if a alternate approvals process or some kind of referendum is needed to possibly increase the funding that is received from the regional district and village for the library. So, a few things to stick handle and figure out. And the purpose of bringing this up is to give council the opportunity to provide direction. If you don't want the building committee to be using a consultant to establish their budget and help figure these things out, if you want it to be done through staff time, then we would need to chat about what are the priorities that you want staff focusing on. So particularly your CAO and manager of strategic initiatives. That's the purpose of bringing it up, in case council wants to make a pivot. And the last item to give you an update on would be Front Street Park. So the contractor found time in their schedule to start construction. So masonry work is underway. And I think they might be pouring concrete at the end of this week if things go well. And then the landscaping would be done in the spring. So good news on that project.
Okay, thank you. That's really good.
To the chair for the library, to do a alternate approval or referendum, that wouldn't be from the village though. That would be the RDCK, right? Because they're the ones that fund the service, the library service.
If the village wanted to increase its tax, sorry, our taxes come from general taxation. So I don't think we would have challenge increasing our taxes in order to afford the library service. But the regional district has a limit through the requisition, which is the bylaw they have, for how much they can charge the portion of Area B that pays into the service. So if they wanted to increase the requisition well above and beyond what they can currently do, then they would need some kind of approval of the electors in order to do it.
Right.
And then just to maybe add further to that, if the village needed a loan to contribute to this library, so there was that $400,000 that would need to be covered that wasn't part of their budget. They didn't have this $400,000. If the village needed to borrow money to fund that, then we would need approval of the electors to do it. But at this point, it doesn't look like that's necessary. All good. They have enough money from what I understand.
We just got that extra donation. So, I did have a little meeting with them. They had a few questions about the asset management, which I said I can give you what I think it means. So they're big, real, I think they can come up with an operating budget. They're both very smart women. But they really don't understand the asset management piece. So I'm not sure if you've explained that to them. I kind of gave them my impression of what, why we need to worry about asset management. But that seems to be their big concern. If that could be explained to them, then I think they can, figure some things out before getting the grant, if we get it.
Can let you know that on Thursday at the regional district meeting, and it went through our North Kootenai Lake Services Committee. There's a motion on the board agenda to increase the cap on the requisition limit by the 25%, which can be done once every 5 years. Missed a chance to do it several years ago. But that is on the board agenda, that one, and it's called Jaws of Life, but it's search and rescue as well, because they're both going to be bumping up against their limit pretty quick. So with the projects that they've got underway, so we expect that will go forward. Okay, any other questions for the CAO report? All right. Thanks very much. Then we've got correspondence, minutes of the Arena Association, Columbia River Treaty Local Governments Committee activity update. And apparently for the treaty, there is a survey that can be done, which they would like people to log in and participate in if they can. So I suspect it's through that link. I got it through another source, so I haven't I've got the link, so I didn't need to find it. And then some correspondence regarding South Beach, and then the UBCM follow-up letter regarding the RCMP. And I wasn't sure it was going to happen, but I did meet briefly with Corporal Venema and Staff Sergeant Berndred this afternoon to discuss the letter. Things were delayed because of the election, so it's not happened, and there's a new person who's just started or going to start, who's for the region, so she has to get up to speed, so they're not ready to submit. And they also, the service plan that they're looking at, it might change, so they're not dropping it at all. Just at this point, we're sort of on hold. They can't submit it because they don't know what the boundaries are going to look like, what the service levels for the number of officers, how that's going to be assigned. So, and we missed because of the election and it being busy. We didn't get a visit subsequent to the end of the last quarter in September. So Corporal Venema will report on the last 2 quarters of 2024 in January. So watch for something to come. And I said probably the second meeting in January would be better, because I suspect the first one will be busy because there'll be a month off. 2 meetings. So that brings us to time for public questions. So we've got no one in the room. Is there anyone online who has a question? If you do, please unmute and you can ask your question. So from either the public or the Valley Voice. All right, I don't see anyone unmuting, so we will go ahead and start with the business. So 7.1, business license amendment bylaw 1307. The recommendation is that the business license bylaw number 1307/2024 be adopted. By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Any discussion? No discussion on adoption. So anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And fees and charges amendment bylaw 1308. Recommendation is that fees and charges amendment bylaw 1308/2024 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Leafwood, seconded by Councillor Lang. I'll go back to all those in favor. No questions on adoption.
Right.
Okay, so all those in favor? Scary. Kaslo Airgo regulation bylaw 1509/2024. Do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Anyway, just to add some clarification of why this is coming forward to council. So, in order to better control what the air carriers and the public are doing, particularly on the apron, and to ensure everyone's safety, we need to regulate what they do. And in order to regulate what they do on the lands, we need to establish that through a bylaw. And so there's one particular part of this proposed bylaw that's important, which is giving staff the ability to develop and implement systems and processes and procedures like an apron management plan or airside vehicle access program, all of these things that, you know, management of an airport needs to do. And so that's really the impetus for bringing this bylaw forward, to let staff regulate what people are doing out there.
Questions, Councillor Leafwood.
So in the past, we were just talking about this earlier. We were under the impression that because the airport was not winter operating, that there were just these NOTAMs put on the airport, like as a blanket kind of thing. So does that sort of replace that?
Through the chair, no. So a NOTAM or a NOTAM is a notice to airmen, which is just, if anybody looks up online our airport, they can see that there's a warning or a notice posted.
Okay.
Generally speaking, private pilots don't look at it at all. And we don't issue NOTAMs unless we were going to be doing grass cutting or possibly snow removal and clearing. And then you would issue a NOTAM to advise people that you're going to be out there. And then while you're doing the grass cutting or snow clearing, the operator would be on the radio periodically saying, you know, Kaslo traffic, this is snowplow 1 doing snow clearing on the runway, any conflicts please advise. So that kind of communication needs to happen no matter what. But the procedure that staff should follow to remind them to do that does not exist. So not that it was required through this bylaw, but it certainly enables staff now to put these processes, procedures in place. The key ones, though, aren't so much focused on staff and safety and the pilots in the air. It's really focused on aircraft, vehicle, and passengers intermixing on the apron and making sure that everyone's doing it safely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in that bylaw? Okay, so the recommendation is that Kaslo Aerodrome Regulation Bylaw 1309/2024 receive first, second, and third readings. Moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor? Scary. 7.4 snow clearing policy. You want to speak to that one at all, or it was pretty straightforward, I think. Anything in particular?
No, that's fine.
But are there any questions for the CAO on that policy before? Okay, so Councillor Brown, I saw your hand first, and then we'll go to Councillor Bird.
Through the chair, for the land owned by the village of Kaslo that we lease. So I'm thinking about particularly snow loads on roofs and things of that nature that would be difficult for them to deal with. Do we have any part to play in those being addressed? Anything that might have negatively affect the asset? Or is that something where we rely on the leasing to address it completely?
Through the chair, as the village owns the property, and doesn't seem reasonable to expect a leasing to shovel snow off the roof, say it falls to the village. And at this time, we don't have any roof clearing policy or procedures in place, or even an inventory of our roofs. So certainly something that will hopefully get brought up to speed over the next couple of years. And in the meantime, staff have run through in their head buildings that they think could be a risk for snow load and don't have any concerns.
That's good.
Through the chair, well, following up on that, the Kemble will have those warnings in place and no parking underneath the, because when the snow dumps off that roof, it's quite dangerous. And I guess the neighbors will find out if it's a bad snow year. But I think the dangerous area for that roof is where people tend to park in the alleyway. And there should be a sign there. And that should be checked every now and then in case people are not obeying that, because I think there was an employee of the village actually got her windshield smashed from the snow load coming down there. Carol, a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, but yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. Anyway, but actually I was just noticing on the map on the snow clearing that there's no indication on the map that the alleyways get the priority 3 alleyways. There's no green line down the alleyways, and so the map is not quite corresponding to the text, but I imagine the text obviously takes precedence.
To the chair, staff will follow up and amend the priority map if possible. Having said that, you're absolutely correct. The alleyways are mentioned as a priority 3 area, and that is clear direction to staff. And they know and understand that the alleyways are priority to be done.
Oh, that's the 2015. Okay. Councillor Euclid.
Through the chair. You mentioned about there being no risk. What about the thrift store? Because it's not a flat roof.
Through the chair, when looking at the thrift store, given its span, so notwithstanding that it probably has quite a low snow load rating, given its span, anecdotally speaking, staff, it didn't raise any alarms for staff.
Okay.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Is carried. And Kaslo Racket Club lease. The recommendation is that the village lease a portion of lot 22, plan 9499, district lot 209, to community land district to the Kaslo Racket Club for a 5-year term from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2029 for $400 in the first year, with 3% increases in each subsequent year. Moved by Councillor Bird, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Kaslo Boat Club and Kaslo Bay Marine Club leases. Recommendation is that staff fully execute sublease agreements with the Kaslo Boat Club and Kaslo Bay Marine Club as detailed in the staff report titled Boat Club Sublease Agreements dated November 18th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion? I just want to thank staff for their perseverance and you know, to working with the clubs to come up with an agreement that must satisfy everyone since we're to this point. So thank you both, or all those concerned. So all those in favor? Ms. Carey. And housing needs report. So the recommendation is that the Village of Kaslo publish its housing needs report 2024 on the village website, and that the village updates its official community plan and land use bylaws to align with the housing needs report for 2024, and by Councillor Bird, and by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? Councillor Brown.
Through the chair, two small things. One, I'm not sure if it matters, but on page 4, there's an error. It says family aged adults ages 25 to 24. I'm guessing that maybe it's 34. But if we're going to put it up on our website, we probably want to make sure that that age range is page 4. It talks about family aged adults, and it talks about all the different age groups, but the family aged adults is 25 to 24. I thought maybe that's 34 or 44. I wasn't sure, but we should figure out what that number is. And then the other thing, I'm wondering, is this report only accounting for information 2020, 2021 and before? I guess I'm wondering, does it account for recent growth in the 2023, 2024 years? Anecdotally, the family center has never been busier. And there's lots of young families and children and newborns that I'm seeing in the community that seem to be in excess of anything I've seen in the 20 years I've been here. But the numbers don't state that, but all the numbers seem to talk about 2021 and prior. So I wasn't sure if 2023 and 2024 were included in this assessment.
I would suspect 2021 is used because that's the year of the last census. And this is our portion of the larger project that was done by the regional district. And that is the balance of the main part of the report. I've pulled that out, and that's what Catherine has shared, put in the council resources as well as area Ds. So if in the report that's an error, I suspect it's a copy and paste. It could be an error through each one of their parts of it. I didn't read all the rest of them, so I suspect it might be a recurring error, and that's because, you know, a lot of people do that because it's easier. It's going to be the same thing, they're just reporting differently. But so, and that is page 4 on our report, like on the executive summary.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that can be changed, because it is coming to the regional district board table on Thursday as well. Okay. So that can be, I think, somebody else might have already pointed it out. I think that they would have lots of proofreaders that you just never know. Councillor Leawood.
It could be that the reason that the information, like what is happening at the family center, is depending on who was asked. Like that may not be a flag for a consultant to ask, but it would be a good resource for them.
Councillor Bird.
What I did through the chair, what I did notice was that, so they're using a formula that is the same all over the province. And like Mayor Hewitt says, it's going to rely heavily on, BC assessment and StatScan and those kinds of things. So I did notice that they went so far as to speak with staff here, and they know about that, what's happened since 2023, for example, with Penny Lane. But to my knowledge, they did not consult with the Housing Society, and obviously they didn't consult with community services, or then they would know, wouldn't they? So it's rather superficial, but one of those things that are necessary. And but what did surprise me a little bit was this focus on how the demographics are only going to be basically getting older, like in the seniors, plus 65. And so that what you're commenting on, you'd think should be reflected, but I guess that is the kind of thing that if we're ever to develop new housing, and we would use that report, but we'd bolster it with real information. And that's just par for the course. And but yeah, I agree with you. It's the level of detail on this, the research is pretty superficial,
Mhm.
but that's required.
I will say though, that compared to the last report that we had done, we got 4 pages of text. That was it. So this is,
Oh.
yeah, so this is better. Area D has only got 4, but the bulk of the report talks about rural areas in general. And that was just specifics for area D. And the same with all the other, the other 11 rural areas each had their 3 pages or 4 pages of specifics on them. All right, so any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. So just to clarify, will staff reach out to RDCK staff that sent the copy of the report? Or
Just to let them know about the.
Yeah.
Report.
yeah, on ours and maybe check the rest of the report? All right, so Canada Summer Jobs. That the Village of Kaslo apply for the 2025 Canada Summer Jobs Program. And it's so moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. And you understand that we're going to apply for, was it 6 to 8 weeks? Well, no, for 16 if we can get it, but if we get less funding, the position might be shorter, but hopefully we'll get the funding and we can hire a student for the entire summer. That would be very good. So that was moved and seconded. Any questions for staff? Okay, all those in favor? Motion is carried. And the UBCM CRI funding recommendation is that council approves applying for the UBCM Community Resilience Investment 2025 Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports Program for 400,000 and up to 200,000 for fuel modification projects, and further that council approved the Regional District of Central Kootenay RDCK to manage and deliver portions of the grant funding program on Kaslo's behalf, including rebates, assessments, and neighborhood program. Moved by Councillor Bird, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Any discussion? Right, notebook, there was something that I saw in the report that I wanted to bring up. I don't think it made a difference to the resolution, but I just had a question, which I'll follow up with you on later. Once I have my right notes in front of me. All right, so all those in favor? It's carried. And holiday schedule and gratuities. Recommendation is that the Village of Kaslo close at noon on Friday, December 20th, 2024, and reopen at 10 a.m. on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. And that Christmas gratuities in the amount of $100 in chamber bucks, if available, be provided to each village staff member. By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. And acting mayor appointments. Hopefully everyone has looked at those and those months' work for them, so that the recommendation is that the Village of Kaslo acting mayor for the period January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2020. Thank you. Be as follows. Councillor Bird will be January and November and December. Councillor Brown, February, March, April. Councillor Lang, May, June, and July. And Councillor Leafwood, August, September, October. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. And APDLG recommendation. These are the ones that staff was aware of. So that CAO Baker, Mayor Hewitt, Councillors Bird, Brown, And anyone else interested in going to AKBLD in Kimberley this year? Oh, all right, so then we'll leave it at those names. Be authorized to attend the Association of Wheatley Boundary Local Governments Convention in Kimberley from April 25th to 27th, 2025 with expenses paid. Moved by Councillor Euclid. Seconded by Councillor Bird. Any discussion? All those in favor? And it's carried. And beer garden license for the Kaslo Jamboree Hockey Tournament. Recommendation is that a beer garden license be granted to the Kaslo and District Arena Association for the 2025 Kaslo Jamboree Hockey Tournament on December 22nd to 20th to 22nd, 2024. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Bird. Any discussion? Councillor Euclid.
To the chair. I just want to say the reason it's late is because we were just asked to take it on, so at our 26th meeting, so we just wanted to make sure we did it right. So that's why it's late.
All right, so all those in favor? It's carried. And Winter in the Forest Festival. I wonder if you can just take those questions offline, because I don't think it affects the resolution at all, so that the village provides support in principle and in-kind assistance from the Public Works crew to prepare the site for the Winter in the Forest event planned for February 17th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Bird and seconded by Councillor Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor? Good. And Castlegar Sculpture Walk 2025, and this is a recommendation from the Art and Heritage Committee that the Village of Kaslo lease the sculpture All Strings Attached by Kate Tupper from Castlegar, from Castlegar Sculpture Walk for installation in Legacy Park in 2025. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? Councillor Bird?
Through the chair. Yeah, I just noticed in the public art policy that the group who is to oversee public art and then make recommendations has a different name than the Art and Heritage Committee.
Yeah. We knew that, but we need to get some things still updated because it's sort of low priority, I think, in the scheme of things with the misnaming. It was when it was first originated, but it has changed. Right? We changed the name of the committee rather than it was the public art committee at one point.
Supplemental. So the terms of reference of the current Arts and Heritage Committee are the same as the.
Yeah, I'll try this. I don't have it in front of me, but the terms of reference for the Art and Heritage Committee basically say that the Art and Heritage Committee is going to serve two purposes. One, it's going to serve as the Building Design Review Committee for development permit applications in the downtown commercial core. And it's also going to serve to make recommendations around public art selections for the village.
So at some point, this public art, the name of that committee escapes me, but at some point it got. How does this happen? Just they just become subsumed under a new name and new people, or?
I don't believe it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so council sets the terms of reference for any of the committees and makes the appointments. And so council decided there was an attempt to sort of streamline some of the committees and combine, there are a few committees that are required to have, like the Asset Management Committee also serves as I'm going to watch this language, but the Broadband Committee for the council that is required under the agreements with him and Columbia Basin Broadband Corporation. And so I think that the terms of reference for the committee have been updated. All of the content for the public art policy remains as is, but it is not the same name of the committee that has the responsibility for that. Because it used to be the Parks and Public Art.
Yeah.
Committee, isn't it?
Yeah.
and Trails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trails.
So the
Yeah.
Parks, Public Art and Trails Committee, when I
Oh.
started here, was the committee that was responsible for selecting the legacy park sculptures. So the committee changes, the name of the committee can change, and as long as the terms of reference are clear for what the role of that committee is, that was a decision that was made by council to move that work outside of the Parks, Public Art and Trails Committee and into the Art and Heritage Committee. So Parks and Public Art and Trails Committee has been disbanded.
Good to know.
I hope.
Councillor Wood?
To the chair. So do we know if we can get this sculpture?
I suspect that that's why it was a
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, we confirmed with Castlegar Sculpture Walk that it is available and they're holding their spot until tomorrow.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
And also just to let you know that we had 3 choices and they were all local. There was one from the Cusp, I think it was, and one from Winlaw, I believe was one of the other selections. So when we looked, and it does say in the policy, how we look for determine which is the best pieces. We've had a couple that have sustained some damage, so we're trying to keep it away from those materials which are easier to damage. We don't want something that's too big for the plinth. There's all kinds of factors, and we did, I think it's in the minutes, we did discuss how we might in the future look at incorporating more local public art like Kaslo Area D. But because of the nature of how it changes annually, and because the cost that they go to, the price of purchasing is generally 10 times the amount of the annual lease, and that allows us to refresh the art on a regular basis unless we want to start accumulating art as a village and actually purchasing it. So those are some of the discussions that we had at our last meeting. All right. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair, just out of curiosity, it does mention a permanent collection. Do we have anything in the permanent collection?
There is Kaslo Protectors.
And that, okay. The loggers wheel.
So, yeah, the Loggers Prayer Wheel by Logger Sports.
Right.
And both pieces, I think, were donated to the village. All right, so all those in favor? Motion is carried. And we have no late items. So the recommendation is for in camera is that in accordance with section 91A, part of council, a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to or is in one or more of the following: the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land and improvements, and if council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality, that persons other than council members and municipal officers be excluded from the meeting. Moved by Councillor Leafwood, seconded by Councillor Lund. Discussion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay. We are now recessed at 6:50 p.m. Take a few minutes. to allow
Did the crew decorate the Kemble Center or was that Penny?